Okay, crap. Hey everybody, Mute Buster Green here. So I didn't want to make this video, but I feel like if I don't, people will call me out for being biased. And unfortunately, the big news today is that Toru Furuya had a sex scandal. And this is big news that I have to cover because there's the possibility here that this could really have long-term negative consequences for the Gundam franchise. So I ran a poll and odds were 4 out of 5 people wanted me to talk about this. So yeah, breaking shocking news today out of Japan. Longtime 70-year-old voice actor Toru Furuya has had a long-term sexual affair with one of his fans, and that is a bad thing. Now, recently, Furuya admitted in an interview with Weekly Bunshin, and he came clean about the affair, that he's been in an affair for the past 4.5 years, and that he has officially been out of the affair since last September, about a year ago. So he broke off the affair because apparently it got super serious and dramatic. He got the girl pregnant, and then there was an abortion, and at some point, physical abuse was involved. And he's really sad about that, so he's taking responsibility for that. Now, this is kind of a big deal because in Japanese culture, typically when a rich man like this cheats on his wife with a young girl, no matter how sinister the man might have been in his motivations, the public basically sides with the man in almost every situation. The default tendency is to blame the girl for being an obsessed gold digger homewrecker. Like, typically, Japanese men can get away with having an affair, and Japanese women cannot. No matter how rich, no matter how unimportant they are to society, they'll usually get punished, they'll usually lose their job, and, they'll suffer a hardship over this. Anyway, Furuya's wife is the VA who played Miharu in the original Gundam, and apparently she had retired from working almost 20 years ago because Furuya made so much money that she could just live comfortably as a housewife and do nothing. Anyway, back to the affair. In a bit of the spicy details, Furuya reveals that he had known this woman for a while, and he eventually realized that she was completely obsessed with him, and then after that, he allowed it to get sexual at a certain point. But once again, we only have his side of the affair, and he seems very confident that he would have never had sex with her in the first place if he had not allowed her to have sex with him. Anyway, so today the news became mainstream in Japan. Furuya issued an apology letter on his Twitter, vowing to take any responsibility possible to alleviate the situation, accept any punishment possible entirely on his own behalf, and do anything to make it right. Now, the reaction in Japan is surprisingly a lot more positive to the situation than I would have expected. So far, there's been no reaction from anyone major in authority. And overall, the Japanese internet public is taking this really well. Like, honestly, I'm shocked at how super well they're all taking it. While a few people did joke that Char and Bright need to show up and punish him, a majority of the online reactions are just being like, hey, you fucked up, but at least you took responsibility for it and you broke it off after 4 years. Anyway, a couple of people joked that this is definitely something that Ribbons and Yamcha would have done. So yeah, don't forget Furuya's not always a hero. Anyway, the most shocking thing that a lot of people are taking away from this story is just that they're shocked that Furuya has just turned 70 now. And then relatively a few people were like, he's 70 years old? He can juggle a job and 2 women at the same time? What a guy! Like, a number of people are basically just making fun of Furuya for acting like a teenager while he's deep in his 70s, playing a teenager on TV while he's deep in his 70s. And the long story short is that they're saying he should have just gotten this out of his system when he was still a young man. Is he a young man? He seems to be. Anyway, overall, yeah, the Japanese internet is taking it pretty well, which I guess surprises me. Anyway, when I woke up this morning and I read this news, I was shocked because I really thought that this would result in Furuya getting blacklisted or canceled, which seems like what usually happens in this situation. But it seems like that's not going to happen to him because it seems like because he apologized first, because he revealed the information in his own terms, and because people want to forgive Furuya, I think he's going to get away with this okay. And overall, people just want him to keep working in anime because they like him. Anyway, no one's really sure what's going to come over this in the long run. However, yeah, worst case scenario is he might get blacklisted and canceled, and then we won't get any more anime out of him. Now, famously in the past, about 10 years ago, the voice actress for Haruhi Suzumiya, Aya Hirano, was blacklisted and had several of her anime canceled. because essentially the deal with her was she was caught sleeping with multiple men that played music with her in her band, and she was into casual sex. That's the most precise description I can find of what happened to her. It doesn't sound like she was cheating on any of them with any of them because there were too many of thems. But nonetheless, with the news reaching the public, it grossed people out. And because it grossed people out, she was blacklisted for that. Now, this might have been one of the reasons that Haruhi Suzumiya Season 3 was never made, because the show was kind of like slightly based around her having a band, and the band is who she had sex with. But anyway, despite the blacklisting, Aya kept working and still works to this day. But the scandal definitely got a couple of her major projects canceled. And supposedly to this day, she still has to deal with death threats from incels who are mad that she had sex and who are mad that her sex got her anime canceled. Now, if you asked me yesterday what was going on with Furuya besides the sex scandal, the situation recently is that Furuya and the voice actor who plays Char, Shinsuke Ikeda, are both in their 70s. And Bandai knows that literally any second, either of them could drop dead or just decide to retire to Florida and fuck off, something like that. So they've been going out of their way to throw them both as many nostalgia projects as possible before they die, to just bank on that old Gundam nostalgia. That's why we got the Gundam The Origin series being focused on Char, and then recently we got the Kakuras Dome movie being focused on Amuro. Now, theoretically, in a vacuum, because nothing was ever confirmed, there were some rumors and hopes and wishes that because both of those projects did good, there might be another one. The main thing people were wishing out of the two of them was that, number one, we would get a remake of the original Gundam with modern animation. Number two, we would get another Kakuras Dome origin movie, like another movie like that, where they take another single episode of the original Gundam and extend it from like 20 minutes to 2 hours. And number three, they were really hoping that we would eventually get an adaptation of Moon Gundam, in which Amuro Ray is a major supporting character and Char is a background character, because Moon Gundam just slides in there perfectly between Gundam Double Zeta and Char's counterattack. And yeah, Moon Gundam kind of seemed in the cards because they kept like pushing Moon Gundam hard in the past couple years. But literally all three of these projects are extremely reliant on Furuya's continued health and bankability at the box office. Because if he's canceled, then, you know, that's a big problem, because if they recast him, like, that becomes a whole scandal in its own right, because then they have to bring up the sex scandal thing. And, you know, a lot of people are just going to not be happy about that. Like, I guess theoretically, they could do a Gundam remake with a new cast, but because it would be such a controversial decision, I think after this, if they were going to do that, they might not do it until Furuya actually dies, which, considering he's healthy and he's 70, that could be another 20 years. If you had to compare this to anyone in the United States, like, the only person you can compare Furuya to is Mark Hamill. So, like, imagine if Mark Hamill got blacklisted over a scandal. It wouldn't be the end of the world because he's so old that he barely acts anymore, but you probably won't get any more weird CGI cameos by him in The Mandalorian or anything. Anyway, I guess I'll let you guys get an update on this if anything else comes out of it, but for now, that's basically the story as it stands. And honestly, the only way I could even update the story is if Furuya is not punished for it. Because if he continues working as normal, then we'll know that he wasn't punished for this. But if he is punished for this, then we kind of just won't see him. So, like, if he disappears, he was punished. Like, I don't know what's going to happen here. Maybe his wife will leave him because that's what usually happens in these stories. But overall, you're just going to have to wait and see. All right, so that's all I can say about that. Yeah, this sucks. All right, later, leave a comment. Good night.